What is a variable? In algebra, we're oftentimes given the question, find x, like x is this naughty child constantly trying to escape its parents, or perhaps always playing hide and seek with you. What is a variable? It's a symbol or letter that represents a number or numbers. Now, oftentimes in algebra, we represent variables with x's. That's probably the most common, but sometimes we use y's and even sometimes m's and n's. But you have been doing variables your whole life, probably even since second grade. If teachers want to trick you into doing algebra, which they have to in second grade, they'll use like a box. This box represents a number, the number 100 actually. Sometimes teachers will even put something like a smiley face or a flower to make you feel happy about doing math. Sometimes we use variables that actually make a whole lot of sense. If we're calculating the volume, we might use V. Or perhaps if we're calculating area, we will use A as area. C for circumference, R for radius, all of these are numbers, and D for distance. Or better yet, D for donuts. When you run out of colored letters that make sense for the variable you're trying to represent, and you're not feeling very creative or perhaps rather lazy, you can use X's and Y's, just like they did with Pokemon. Textbooks are especially good at doing this. One of the biggest mistakes algebra students make, and sometimes even teachers make it, is to forget that your variable actually represents something. When you have the variables x and y, it represents a number or a group of numbers. So let's say you're selling lemonade on a hot afternoon, and let's say for every cup of lemonade you sell, you make 25 cents. So how could we use a variable to represent the money that we're going to make at our lemonade stand? Now, when I try to figure out how to represent a problem with variables, usually I try a few sample numbers to get an idea of a pattern. So let's start with a pretty easy case. How about 2 cups? Well, 2 cups, each a quarter, 2 25 cents or 50 cents. Let's try 4 cups. So that's 4 25 cents. 4 times 25 cents, which is $1. Now we can write that times sign as a dot as well, and we usually do that in algebra. Let's try another one. How about 8 glasses? So 25 cents times 8, $2. Now the 25 cents stays the same. Really, the number of glasses, 8 in this case, is changing, as well as the amount that's earned. These two are going to be our variables. Let's call the amount earned, we'll call that variable A. Now I could have named it anything, I just chose A because it makes sense to me. Now let's take the number of cups and we'll actually use a symbol to represent it. So our symbol of a cup is going to be our variable in this case for the number of cups of lemonade. Now we can write down the pattern that we've already discovered, only this time we're going to use variables. So 25 cents times the number of cups is going to be the amount we earned at our lemonade stand. Our two variables are the amount of money in dollars as well as the number of cups sold. We can use this equation to do all kinds of problems. For example, you could calculate easy numbers in your head of the amount of money you would make in 1 cup just by plugging in a 1 for the number of cups and getting the amount as 25 cents. 2 cups you could do in your head pretty easily as well. 2 25 cents is 50 cents. And 8 cups, remember, is $2. We could even do 100 cups. When we plug in 100 cups, 0.25 times 100, $25. We could even do some crazy numbers like 100.25 cups. Now we could do this on a calculator or by hand if you want slightly tedious work to get about $25.06. Now what if we wanted to do a lot of calculations? We didn't have specific numbers, but we wanted to do lots of different numbers of cups to get lots of different amounts, say 65 of them. We could still use a calculator, but it would take an awfully long time. That's where algebra really comes in handy. We can give the computer the formula that we created full of variables to follow. Now computers don't really like pictures to represent variables, so let's change our cup symbol to C equaling the number of lemonade cups. Okay, so here's what our equation looks like now. 0.25 times c equals a. Now when we have a variable and we're multiplying a number by it, we don't even have to write the times sign. We can write it 0.25c equals a. And because they're equal, we can also write a equals 0.25c. Another thing to remember when you're working with variables is that in your algebra books, it will often give you the right exact amount of information to solve a problem. Now, life is not so helpful unless you have a PAA, a personal algebra assistant. So you're going to need to decide which information that you'll need and what you're going to assign your variables to. Who knows, maybe someday you'll become a PAA. When life gives you lemons, try making algebra lemonade.